without this realization of the truth, and without these practices, and without this possibility of experiencing your true nature, your life will be like the rest of humanity's life who doesn't know the truth, and that life will be a life of suffering. And one of the aspects of this that motivates people to practice meditation is to take a look. If you take a look at your life, how is it going in terms of, are you satisfied? How is it going in terms of, are you experiencing contentment? How is it going in terms of you're experiencing peace? Being able to enjoy being alive, enjoying your life, enjoying your relationships. And if that's not the case, then what is happening? What's in the way of being happy? When we look at a baby, we see a model of the possibility. When we look at a baby, we see the model of the possibility, because the baby is experiencing a direct relationship with what's happening. So when the baby is not uncomfortable, the baby is content. The baby sleeps, the baby smiles, when the baby's awake and isn't hungry and doesn't need its diaper changed, the baby is experiencing what could be called wonder. If you look at a baby's face when a baby's awake, when they're content, they're experiencing wonder. They're looking around all the time with this look on their face of awe and wonder. So we could say that for a baby, life is wonderful. So the possibility that meditation makes available is an experience of being in a life that's wonderful, that you can experience a life that's wonderful. But that's not the life that most people are experiencing. The life that most people are experiencing is a life of constant striving, of constant enduring, of constant coping, of constant looking forward to pleasurable experiences, constantly trying to avoid pain, constantly being in conflict with other people, constantly waking up in the morning and being concerned, living in a state of concern. Now, this is the typical life that human beings are living. So one of the ways that people get motivated to practice meditation is to have take an honest inventory of your life. Ask yourself some questions and see if you can be bold enough and brutally honest enough to answer these questions honestly in terms of what's it like to be you? Are you happy? Are you content? Do you experience peace? Are you excited about being alive? And if not, what's in the way? What's happening that is in the way of your being able to be excited about being alive? Most people suffer from inhibition, because one of the ways that you can survive the existence of being a personality is to be inhibited, to protect yourself by not allowing people to see you, to protect yourself by not allowing people to know you, to stay in this state of isolation from other human beings. So this is part of the condition we're living in. And through the practice of meditation, we can begin to make contact with an experience of freedom. Freedom from what? It's commonly said this freedom that is talked about is not freedom for you, it's freedom from you. Why would it be that? Why would that be the case? Why would we be saying that it's freedom from you? Well, the reason that's the case is because the you that you take yourself to be, right, is the source of suffering. The you that you take yourself to be is the source of suffering. Who is the you that you take yourself to be? You take yourself to be a physical body, and you take yourself to be the personality. And the personality expresses itself. The personality lives by experiencing a thought process. The personality lives in a thought world. The personality itself is a thought, right? So if somebody asks you, who are you? You answer by answering with a thought. You tell them what you think you are, right? The meditation practice goes back thousands of years, so there's always been people since the beginning of the recording of time, there's always been people who claim to be experiencing this other state, this state of being that was different, this state of being in which it was possible to be experiencing peacefulness, it was possible to experience contentment, well-being. And this possibility is an interesting possibility, because the thing that makes it so interesting and ironic is the fact that if you study the truth teachings, if you study the wisdom teachings, what you will study is the fact that who you actually are is free. Who you actually are is happy and peaceful and content. But who you actually are is not who you're being. Who you actually are is the awareness that has been in the background of life while you were paying attention to the thought process that's in the foreground of life, thinking that the thinking activity that was occurring was you. My thoughts are my thoughts. I am thinking these thoughts. I am experiencing these emotions. I am seeing through these eyes. There is this entity that I take myself to be that has a physical body. It's a physical body, and I am somewhere in this body. This is the way people are living their lives. And the teachings tell us this is not true, and the teachings tell us that even if you understand the truth, because the truth teachings, the wisdom teachings make sense. If you listen to the wisdom teachings, they make sense. For example, one of the wisdom teachings is to say that the voice in your head is not you, that you're not the thinker of the thoughts, you're not the source of the thoughts that occur in your mind. This is one of the teachings. And what the teachings say is that don't accept this as a belief, but rather than accepting this as a belief, take a look. Redirect your attention to your thought activity. Pay attention to thinking. Notice what the voice in your head is saying. And allow yourself to recognize that the voice in your head, what the voice in your head is saying is not coming from you. The evidence for this is directly available. The evidence for this is directly available because if you look at the thoughts that appear in your mind, many of those thoughts are troubling thoughts for you. Many of those thoughts are troubling thoughts for you. So if you were the source of those thoughts, then you're thinking troubling thoughts that scare you, that upset you, that disturb you, that cause you to be angry, that cause you to experience distress, that cause you to be disturbed a lot of the time because of the thoughts that occur in your mind and the feelings that occur there. When things happen and you get triggered, right? What's that mean? When you get triggered, it means you're having a reaction. What's a reaction? A reaction means that something has stimulated something from your past experience that caused you to react to what's happening now. And that plays out in your mind in terms of certain thoughts and certain emotions. And most people follow the thoughts in the mind and the emotions helplessly and mindlessly. That's why the practice is called mindful instead of mindless. Mindful instead of mindless. In other words, paying attention, being aware of what's really happening instead of just living in a mental state in which you take the thoughts to be your thoughts, in which you believe the emotions are truthful, that when you're angry, that the what's happening in the world is the real source of the cause of your anger, so you have to react to that. You have to try and control that. You have to try and change that or fix that. So this is the lot that human beings are in, living a life as separate from the rest of the world, living a life as separate from the rest of humanity, which causes distress, which causes neurotic experiences, paranoia, being afraid, being concerned, worrying, ruminating, imagining the future and being afraid, thinking about the past and having regrets. This is the human life that most people are living. So meditation gives us an opportunity to practice something that can gradually take us out of these misunderstandings, can gradually take us out of the idea that we are the body and the personality. Through practicing every single day without fail, gradually you will start to be aware of the fact that the awareness itself is what you are, rather than the body, rather than the personality. This is a challenging practice because we live in a world where almost everybody believes that they are the body and the personality, and we have to interact with each other with that understanding. So even if you wake up and you know the truth about yourself, you have to interact with a world that is still sleeping. You have to interact with a world that is still dreaming, the dream that they are separate and that they are the personality and they are the body. So that makes it much more challenging, because the only opportunity that you have to experience the truth is if you sit still and be quiet and sit in a posture in which you move your attention away from the thought activity, that thought activity that for most people has attracted your attention consistently all the time. To move your attention away from that thought activity and be aware of the body breathing. This is the practice. Now, most people will fail at the practice of meditation. Okay? In all the years that I've been teaching it, I see more people try to meditate and then give up than people that actually start a meditation practice and keep the practice going. That's because in the beginning of the practice is where you will be tested. In the beginning of the practice, you'll be tested in terms of, can you sit still and be with the restlessness of the body? Can you sit still and be with the restlessness of the mind, the monkey mind? Can you sit still and be with that? And can continue to bring your attention back to the breath over and over again. Most people attempting to do this feel that it's uncomfortable. They may have aches in the body. They may have restlessness in the body, restlessness in the mind. And so sitting there like that, for any length of time for most people is very challenging. And it's uncomfortable. But if you understand what the teachings are and you persevere and you continue to sit for a period of time, in the Zen tradition, they say to sit for about 30 minutes is a good time to sit so you can get far enough into the experience of the meditation to experience a shift in how you feel, to experience a shift in your identity, such that when you're being the awareness of the body breathing, you feel a sense of spaciousness. You feel a sense of relief. But that won't happen right away. It may take a while to continue to practice sitting still in a posture, being aware of the mental activity, moving attention away from the thought activity and being aware of the body breathing over and over again. Most people can't deal with that process because most people are conditioned to avoid being uncomfortable. Right? Most of us are conditioned to avoid being uncomfortable, so whenever we're uncomfortable, we seek relief. Right? If it's physical pain, we seek relief through prescription medication. Right? If we're suffering from mental activity, right, the mind is racing, we seek relief. How do we get relief from the mind racing? Right? We take some kind of substance that will tranquilize the process. slow the process down. So we feel less inhibited. And we feel less inhibited, we're more available to what's happening. We're more relaxed and available to what's happening. The problem with that is now we're dependent on the substance to feel okay. Right? So it becomes an addiction. So we switch from one addiction to another, from the addiction of being caught up in thinking, being caught up in the emotions, being caught up in the sensations in the body. We shift from that to becoming dependent on some substance or some activity that will relieve us from this discomfort by tranquilizing the body, changing the body's chemistry, or distracting us from our experience. So to practice meditation takes a commitment, and it's one of the reasons why it's important to have a teacher, to have guidance. It's important to be studying the truth teachings, the wisdom teachings, so that you understand why you're meditating. If your understanding of meditation is that it's just for stress reduction, that may not be enough to get you to practice every single day without fail. Most people aren't successful in doing that. But if you study the wisdom teachings tell us that if you don't succeed in getting free from this dream state, from this illusion about your identity, if you don't succeed in getting free from this, that your life will be a life of suffering and your death will be a tragedy. And what they say in these teachings that this is the truth. This is not a lie. This is the way it is. This is the way it is. Life is a temporary situation, right? The body appears and the body disappears. The personality appears and the personality disappears. And unless you practice meditation and you sit still and you pay attention so that you can experience your true nature as awareness, unless you practice something that allows you to experience your true nature as awareness, you do not ever come out of this mental state. You live in a mental state. You live in your head. Most of us experience what it's like to be free from this mental state for brief periods of time in our life. When you're involved in doing something that takes all of your attention. For example, long-distance runners talk about this thing they call the zone, right? That they're so identified with the act of running, right, that there's no attention on their identity, and so their identity is absent. And when their identity is absent, that's when they're experiencing their true nature. Because the identity that's absent is the personality. And the personality plays as a thought process in the mind. If somebody is a long-distance runner and they're totally involved in the experience of running, right? Totally involved in the experience of running so that there is no one there, there's just the running happening. Then there's the experience that they call being in the zone, which is an experience of feeling this pleasurable high of being in the zone. Other people report the same experience. Writers report it when they're lost in the process of writing. Artists report it when they're lost in the process of creating art. Musicians report it when they're lost in the process of playing music. So this is a brief experience that comes as a side effect when you're doing something that requires your full attention. So most of us have had an experience like that, or an experience of what's called self-actualization. Most of us have had experiences like that. I've talked to a lot of students that have come to meditation class, and it's often the case that they say, oh, there was this time that something happened. I didn't know what it was. I couldn't explain it, but somehow, some way, I started to experience this experience of being excited, at peace, happy, content. Nothing was bothering me. It didn't seem like I had any problems. I could even call it joy. I was enjoying the experience of my existence of being alive. And then it ended, and it went back to the way it was in terms of my experiencing being involved in thinking all the time, being involved in my moods and my emotions, being involved in trying to control my life. So when people have had that experience, they have what's called a taste. It's a taste of what it would be like to be you. And your true nature is awareness itself. So that taste gives them a motivation to want to get it back, to want to get that experience back. One of the things that makes it a bit confusing for people is the understanding that this experience that you want to get back of experiencing your true nature as awareness, that experience is an experience that you never lost. You cannot lose the experience of what you are as awareness itself. It is the ground of your being. It is the ground of your being. It is the fundamental experience of your existence. Your existence is the existence of awareness. That's what the baby's experiencing, the existence of awareness. And then we learn to become the personality. And when we learn to become the personality, it's like becoming an actor, right? You become an actor and you learn your script. When you're a baby and you get a name and you start to get language and you start to think, you start to learn your script in the world. You learn your name, you learn this is your body, right? This is the character you're going to play in this movie called your life. And you're going to have a name, and you're going to have certain characteristics that are unique to you, right? That's your script, and now you're being that actor. But just like in life, when an actor is playing a role in a movie, right? The role they're playing in the movie is not who they are, right? They're playing the role in the movie. They've learned the script. They've studied the script. And now they're acting out the script. They may even feel the emotions of the character they're playing, right? And they get involved in the activities and the drama that occurs in the script in life, right? And the script is dramatic. The script involves a lot of human suffering, right? These are the stories we like to see. You know, you don't go to the movies to watch something that's a happy movie all the way through, right? No. The personality is interested in drama. It's interested in struggle. It's interested in being in control. It's interested in performance. It's interested in achievement, right? It's interested in the pursuit of happiness, right? So that is the gerbil wheel that everybody's running on every day. That's the Groundhog Day that everybody's experiencing every day. And we don't really even stop long enough to really ask, what the hell are we doing? Where are we going with this? You know, we keep working to try and get the money to be happy. We keep working to try and get the security and the possessions in order to be happy, right? We keep looking forward to the day when we will have enough and be satisfied. And if you're successful and you have a good career, you look forward to retirement, right? And then you get to retirement and there's nothing to look forward to. You know? Anybody that lives life that way has bought a life that cannot be fulfilled. Anybody that lives their life that way has bought into a life that cannot be fulfilled. Why? Well, the main reason it cannot be fulfilled is because who you take yourself to be as the actor, it's like an actor in a movie, right, that took themselves to be the actor and forgot their true identity and got stuck in the act. Most human beings are stuck in the act and they can't get out of the act. Meditation allows you to get out of the act, allows you to recognize that the thoughts that play in your mind and the stories that you tell yourself and the drama that you're involved with is just like the script in a movie or a play, and you're an actor, you're a character in that movie and in that play. And that's going to produce suffering and drama. Right? But just like the actor that's acting in a movie or a play, the thing that has it work to be an actor is they know it's not who they really are. They can come out of the act, they can come out of the character that they're playing and experience their true nature. In the same way, we can come out of the act that we're playing if we sit still and move attention away from the script, away from the thought process, and practice doing that so we can get away from the script and the thought process and experience the freedom of the experience of awareness itself. Become familiar with awareness itself as our true nature. And if you become familiar with awareness itself, you'll notice that this awareness has no form, it has no shape, it doesn't exist in time, it only exists in the present moment. It doesn't need anything, it doesn't want anything, it's always still, it's always at rest, it's always at peace. So if you practice, consistently practice, taking the time out every day to sit still and move your attention away from the thought activity, away from the mental activity, and begin to experience this stillness, this peace, it starts to reorganize you, it starts to reorganize your identity so that you can start to experience your true nature, and your true nature is not affected by the ever-changing world, so that you can begin to experience an experience of well-being. And just like Richie Davidson says, from all of the brain research that they did on meditation practitioners that have practiced for decades, they studied their brains and they saw that their brains were very uniquely different from the ordinary, normal person's brain, common person's brain. And they discovered that they had an ability to be much more resilient. They were much more sensitive, but at the same time they were much more resilient. So if they heard a loud noise, they would jump, much quicker and much higher than somebody else, but they would recover from that stimulation much faster than anybody else. So they would have resilience. A very valuable way of experiencing life is to be able to recover from the situations that challenge us in life. So meditation is a practice that you can practice that will allow you to get in contact with the truth, to get in contact with your true nature, to experience the possibility, right, that you can be aware of this true nature, this calm state, this untroubled state. You can be aware of that at all times. Even when you're in the act, even when you're being the personality, and you can begin to have the personality be an expression of this true nature, so you become somebody who is more kind, somebody who is more peaceful. And as you become somebody who's more kind and more peaceful, the people around you begin to experience the possibility of having a relationship with you that works.